Hey guys, in today's tutorial I'm going to be covering how I paint skin and eyes in Paint Tool SAI. I will also be doing a hair tutorial very soon, and all of these things have been very highly requested, so I thought it would be a really good idea to film some tutorials for you so that I can pre-record them and upload them for when I'm on vacation, because at the moment you're watching this I will be on vacation in Portugal. A lot of what we are doing today requires a knowledge of Paint Tool SAI or the program you're using and its tools. If you're a complete beginner, then I recommend watching my Paint Tool SAI Beginner's Guide, which basically goes through all the basic functions you'll need to know about. And I also have a sort of beginner's guide for Krita. In that video I do go through a lot of the basic tools as well, but not as in depth as my Paint Tool SAI one. So if you also, like me, would like to use Paint Tool SAI for this, then I definitely recommend that video first if you don't know anything about layers or layer functions like multiply, opacity and luminosity. If those words I'm saying don't mean anything to you, then I definitely recommend watching that video first, because it will just make this tutorial a lot clearer and easier to follow. Okay, so the line art part isn't really covered in this, because in my kind of art, the painterly style I do, the line art is never really important. What I have drawn in front of you, these 3 different faces, are just literally really sketchy line art that I've done. It's only taken me like 10 minutes to do the line art for all of this. It's really sketchy, really rough, because it doesn't really matter at this stage. So what you'll need is your basic sketch of a face. So it can be a little bit chicken scratchy, just try and keep it neat, and I will have a tutorial on how to actually draw the face and the eyes coming very soon. But as this is a tutorial on just how to paint them, I'm going to assume you already have a way of drawing the face and the eyes already. And I've drawn 3 different faces to make it clearer and to demonstrate different skin tones. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a layer and put this layer underneath the layer with our sketch, and use this layer to make a block color of the skin tone. So you're going to choose a mid-tone, so not the highlight color, not the dark color, but a mid-tone of the skin color. So each of these different faces I'm going to choose a different skin tone, and then once I've filled in the block color, I'm gonna set the layer above it of the line art that I did to multiply, and I'll turn down the opacity of it a little bit as well. For the next step, I'm going to create a layer between the line art layer and the base color layer, and I'm going to use this to shade. So what I'll do is I'll pick a medium brown or a pinkish kind of tone. Sometimes I'll use a purple. It depends what I want the look of the piece to look like. And I will set this layer to multiply, make sure I tick clipping group, and also turn down the opacity. By ticking clipping group, you make sure that you can only color within the area that is underneath it, so you can't go outside the base color at all, it won't let you. And basically I just put this wherever I feel there should be any kind of shade. So the way I like to think about this is which areas of the face protrude, so come out, and which areas of the face are more sunken in. And generally, if you have a very kind of standard lighting, you'll have like a shadow under the nose, a shadow under the jawline, and a shadow like above the eye sockets, and places like that are places where you want to be putting shadows. So I'd say just follow a similar kind of shadow pattern as I did in the video. I also, using the same principles that we've just used, created a base color for the lips and the eyes, and also shaded those. Once I've added shade, I then will create more layers, more clipping group layers, and create even more shading layers just to do more localized shading, so the darkest parts of the face. next thing we're going to do is create a new layer and set this layer to luminosity, and I will color pick the mid-tone of the skin, and I'll use that as the color for luminosity to highlight the piece. Sometimes I'll change the hue of it ever so slightly, but I think for this piece I did keep it the same. And I will basically, once again, it's essentially the opposite way of how we just shaded. We'll work out where the places protruding are, and we'll try and highlight them to give the illusion that they're coming out the face. So for example, the bridge of the nose, just under the brow bone. A really easy way to think about it is like how you would do makeup, so like contouring. Sometimes find that if you think about contouring, it will help when you're shading as well. So basically that's just how I highlight. I add several luminosity layers, same kind of way as we did the multiply layers. Once we're done and we've done all the luminosity layers and put all the different highlights in place, we will merge everything together onto the same layer, including the sketch line art as well, so that we're ready for blending. So what you're going to do next is you're going to use the brush tool, and we're going to use this to blend everything out. If you don't have a brush tool, then right click on an empty square in your brushes section under your color wheel and click brush to create a new brush. And the way we go about blending different areas out is you have to think about which areas do you want to be sharp detail and which areas do you want to be really blurry and properly blended out. So for areas of sharp detail, for example, the crease of the eye, you're going to want to have a high density and a low blending. But for areas around the face, like blending out the shadows around the cheeks, where there'd be softer kind of transitions between the different shades, you want to have a medium density and a medium blending. And depending on how much you want it blended out, you might want to up the blending even further and turn the density down even lower. You'll see throughout the footage that I adjust these different settings quite a lot to achieve different kind of looks as I'm blending as I go. And basically at this stage, all you're going to do is blend out all the harsh shadows and highlights that you created using the luminosity layers until you end up with something how like mine ends up looking once I've blended everything out. Okay, so the final step once you've done all of that is to create a layer above everything you've just done and set this layer to multiply. Make sure you get the brush on a very small brush and on a low density as well. Relatively low density, not so low that you can't hardly see it at all, but I'd say around 20 or 30 density, and put it onto a dark shade of some kind. I usually use like a dark brown or something. I use this to add back in details that I've lost throughout the blending process. This will include things like eyelashes, eyebrows, like the individual eyebrow hairs. I use this to also go around the edge of the nose and around the edge of the face. So areas like that, we just use this to paint back in any kind of detail. I also, once that is completely finished, create a layer above everything and get the acrylic brush on a higher density this time at probably around 85 and set the brush to white and use this to make the shiny bits of the eye. hope you guys found this tutorial helpful. Don't forget that I will be posting my hair tutorial tomorrow, so if you want to find out how I draw hair, then make sure you tune into that. Bye guys!